Welcome back to Mason Talks. So, for the first time in a long time, we can confidently say this was a highly successful Sunday for the Cleveland Browns because they succeeded in the 2025 Tank Bowl versus the New York Jets, losing 27-20. And the Browns now fall to a 2-7 record, which is the same as the New York Jets. However, now we have the incredibly critical tiebreaker for better 2026 NFL draft positioning. And with this loss, the Browns are now currently fourth. They would be picking fourth if the NFL season ended today. The only teams who have higher draft picks than us at this moment are the New Orleans Saints, the New York Giants, and the Tennessee Titans. And you know what? To be quite honest, watching this game, and I'm sure most of you came away with this same perspective, that's all there is to talk about. Our draft positioning is all there is to talk about, because you look at that game and what the Browns did today against the Jets, who were for sure the worst team remaining on your schedule except maybe Tennessee. This was a game that was exactly what we've seen the entire season. I mean, yes, you have some things to be positive about with flashes of solid play from Quinshon Judkins, from Harold Fannin Jr. I mean, Mason Graham had a couple of very nice plays today. Like, yes, the Browns have some building blocks, but the offense is horrific. And the reason the offense is horrific is because Dillon Gabriel is horrific. Dillon Gabriel is the worst starting quarterback in the National Football League, and I would even go so far as to say he's the worst quarterback the Browns have played since Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry took over back in 2020. I mean, you even think about all the backups. Like, I'd rather have Case Keenum starting on a week-to-week basis over Dillon Gabriel. I mean, if you're talking about trying to actually win football games, I take Case Keenum every day. I take PJ Walker every day over Dillon Gabriel. You could even make an argument for Nick Mullins. Like, he stinks. He is so incredibly bad. And, it's not his fault that he's 5'10", but it is his. Well, it's not. You know what? I don't want to blame Dillon too aggressively hard, because he was put in this position by Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. They claimed for him to be there. This was Kevin's guy, third round pick, looking like a complete and utter waste of a third round pick. And now they apparently feel compelled to stick with him. Because as you probably heard, post-game press conference, Kevin Stefanski said that they're going to continue to plan for Gabriel to be the starting quarterback going forward, which is ridiculous. I mean, week in and week out, you see the flashes of at least decent play that this team can produce, and then everything is killed. Any momentum you get, any good vibes you're able to generate, immediately cut off by Dillon Gabriel. Because he stinks. He's not good. And he, there's the offensive line is a negative this year. Your wide receivers are a negative this year. But like, if you had a competent quarterback, I think that there would be a lot that could be made up for. And by competent, I don't mean, Joe Flacco, even though he's far more competent than Dillon Gabriel. But like, if you had we'll just throw out the name Baker Mayfield. I think a lot of the black eyes that you're suffering would be negated or covered up. So there's just so little to talk about because Dillon Gabriel stinks. And as long as he's your starter, there's going to be nothing to talk about. Now, the two things that this game made me think about, and this result made me think about, first and foremost, Shedeur Sanders. Why are the Browns not willing to even give him a look. And I know that Dillon Gabriel was drafted higher than Shedeur, but we're not talking about a first-round pick. He was a third rounder. I mean, yes, Shedeur's a fifth-round pick, but like everybody knows that he could have been much higher than where he was drafted, Shedeur Sanders. He could have been drafted higher than Dillon Gabriel. I think almost everybody in the National Football League knows that. So if draft position and egotistical preservation is the reasoning for why Dillon Gabriel is still starting and why Shedeur Sanders is still serving as QB2, then Kevin Stefanski should be shown the door. I mean, Kevin Stefanski, if that's the only reason, if the only reason is to protect his reputation and the reputation of Andrew Berry, who drafted him, then he should be fired. Because that's not what's best for the team. I think what's best for the team right now, whether Shedeur Sanders is a franchise quarterback or not, is to let him get on the field and actually show what he can do. Because, and this leads into the second thing that I've been thinking of because of this game. If Shedeur Sanders is good, if Shedeur Sanders were to go out and actually play competent football and look like a legitimate starter, there's going to be a ton of options for you to use your likely top 3 pick. I mean, there's going to be multiple Ohio State defenders that you could look at with that pick. There's at least a couple offensive linemen and then wide receivers who you could look at with that pick. If Shedeur's good, if Shedeur's a starter, if Shedeur's a franchise quarterback, but you can't know if he doesn't play. So I think what it must be coming down to is simply they don't want the poor look that benching your third-round quarterback for your fifth-round quarterback would give them. That's what it has to be. That's what it has to be. But the second thing I'm thinking outside of Shedeur Sanders is just like, I mean, I guess we shift our focus now to what quarterback would you want in the 2026 draft? And I think the two top tier quarterbacks are Ty Simpson with Alabama, and then you're looking at Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. And like that's where you are right now. And that's why I said this was a successful tank bowl against the New York Jets, because now you put yourself in better position, because the Titans, they're not going to be drafting a quarterback, at least you wouldn't think they would with Cam Ward. The Saints, maybe they could look at drafting a quarterback, but just I don't think that you're gonna have much competition if you stick around that spot, top 4. Jackson Dart with the Giants isn't going to be somebody they're looking to replace. So like the Browns in a way almost control their destiny now, in an ugly way. If you lose out, you get your pick of the litter in terms of Fernando Mendoza or Ty Simpson. Looking back, the second tier would probably be guys like Dante Moore out of Oregon. And that's just, it's the ugly state of where the Cleveland Browns are right now, that your biggest talking points, the key things that we're thinking about right now halfway through this NFL season are quarterbacks that aren't playing. Quarterbacks that either aren't on your team or aren't playing. I legitimately don't know, like, when are you going to get Shedeur? I feel like this was a week when you maybe could have seen Shedeur. When the Browns went down by 10, I was like, okay, you know what? Kind of need a spark. You kind of need a spark offensively. You know who'd give you a spark? Probably Shedeur Sanders. And he did, it never came up. So, like, when are we going to see Shedeur? When is he going to come out? When's he going to be on the field? When are we going to get to see what traits he possesses? I have a fear that it might not be until Kevin Stefanski's not the head coach. And that's just where we are. with the Cleveland Browns right now. It's a sad place to be, considering the success that Stefanski has had, specifically in 2020, in the first, his first season with the playoffs, and then 2023. It's starting to get a little bit ugly. I don't even know if a little bit. It's starting to get a lot ugly for Kevin Stefanski. But let me know in the comments, do you think Stefanski will be willing to start Shedeur as long as he's head coach of the Cleveland Browns? Thank you for listening to the Mason Talk Sports Show. I will see you in my next episode. Goodbye.